Alright, can we talk for a hot minute about how 2017 has been one of the best years in gaming in, like, ever? New life was breathed into old franchises, highly anticipated and delayed games were finally released to critical acclaim, a bunch of predictable and unpredictable sequels have been lauded as masterpieces, Nintendo gracefully bounced back with the launch of the Switch after the misstep that was the Wii U, and yet through all of this, some new IPs were still able to shine like the beacons that they are. I mean, obviously it hasn't been a perfect year, especially not with the stench of Shadow of War, Battlefront 2, and the stigma of loot boxes in general being fresh in our minds, but that aside, holy crap, good job 2017, take a bow. Anyway, I know that the concept of gaming accolades are kind of inherently silly considering how many games are somehow able to get away with calling themselves Game of the Year, but I can't help but get excited about initiatives like the Game Awards. In fact, I really like award shows in general, which is something you'll learn pretty quick about me, especially around Oscar season. And yes, while many of the more pedantic people in my life scoff at things like this, I still enjoy them because more than anything else, they're meant to be a celebration of the things we love. Or at least that's how I choose to read them. And while I am excited to see if the Game Awards can stick around long enough to become the Oscars of gaming, I do have a problem with the Game Awards, and yearly gaming roundup videos in general. I don't have time for this shit. How can anyone play every game that came out in 2017? That's insanity! I work for a gaming channel and I've probably still only played a small handful of the games that people have been talking about this year, not that I don't appreciate the work, I love you guys. So with that in mind, I want to try something a little different. A different sort of Game Awards. For those of you who are part of that there PC crowd, you already know that the Steam Autumn Sale came and went and, like, whatever. I can't be bothered to get too excited about Steam sales anymore. What does excite me though are the Steam Awards, which were introduced last year. And if you have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, they're a collection of awards with increasingly goofy names that are voted on by Steam users, and every game on Steam is technically eligible for any award, and the fun part here is that it's not just limited to games that came out this year. So I thought that today I'd run through all of the awards and share with you my picks, because Lord knows most of the games I picked won't win anything, but I still think they deserve more recognition, and if you think any of them look cool, give them a try. They'll probably all go on sale during the holiday season anyway. But yeah, I thought this would be a bit more fun than just doing my list of games of the year because I've only played like, what, 4 or 5 games that actually came out this year? You want my game of the year? This is my game of the year. Shocking, I know. The only game I actually managed to make a video about this year. Alright, so with that out of the way, let's get this glorified random game recommendation video rolling. I now present to you my Steam Awards 2017. The world is grim enough, let's just all get along award. So these awards are kind of vaguely defined in some places, and I'm probably gonna exercise some creative license in interpreting them. So first up, this is to recognize a game that doesn't involve combat or conflict, and I'm gonna go ahead and exercise some of that license already. Shut up, they're my awards, I can do whatever I want. To me, this award could range from a whole bunch of things, from the messages of unity that we learned from games like Thomas Was Alone, to the intriguing story of discovery that we uncover all around us in Gone Home. Or it could even go to a game that puts the power in your hands to make the conscious choice to not fight anyone like Undertale. Though in terms of a Steam game with no actual combat, none have made me feel quite as melancholy or make me inspect aspects of my own life quite like Night in the Woods. Had I not played Persona this year, this game probably would have given me a lot of similar feelings. The interpersonal relationships shown in the game are some of the most realistic and human I've ever seen. You know, even though they're all animals. You're a kitty. I mean, you could argue that this game does have conflict, but it's much more of a person versus self, or person versus environment conflict, rather than one that involves things like, you know, combat. The game tackles issues like quarter-life crises and feeling stuck based on where you grew up. From doing crimes with Greg to beating up an old furnace with B to band practice, Night in the Woods breathes life into small-town America in a way that I've only seen in film and TV before, and that alone is more than worthy of recognition. The Choices Matter Award. Choice is a tough nut to crack in games, it's hard to pull them off effectively. Making the player feel like they're a proper agent in an experience where each choice makes a difference requires a lot of additional work from the developer, but games have been getting the hang of choice lately, whether they're the aforementioned choices in Undertale, or through complete deconstructions of player agency like in the Stanley Parable, or just giving us some good old agonizingly difficult choices like Life is Strange or most of this genre of interactive storytelling. Hell, some games like Spec Ops: The Line actually do provide you with alternate choices to certain situations, but actually hide them from the player, providing the opposite of the illusion of choice problem that's plagued gaming. But for my money, the game that best and most simply showcases the importance of your choices is Lucas Pope's Papers, Please. There's nothing quite like the stress of juggling paperwork for a nation that constantly lies on the brink of war. The choices you make as this overworked and underpaid border guard will ripple through the rest of your playthrough in a variety of different ways, whether it's your family dying of cold to potential terrorist attacks. The simplistic, monotonous gameplay exists to completely dehumanize everyone you encounter, and especially since earlier this year, due to a massive misunderstanding, I found myself on the receiving end of some heavy scrutiny by a border guard not unlike in this game. When going over my options for this award, Papers, Please resonated with me in a little too real of a way. The Haunts My Dreams Award. This is the award for the game that occupies your thoughts. It permeates into your life. You can't help yourself but come back for more. Whether it's for the randomly generated punishment that awaits you in games like Hand of Fate or Darkest Dungeon, or the incredibly addictive rhythmic gameplay in Crypt of the Necrodancer. But no other game got under my skin, no other game possessed me more than Thumper. You know those concerned parents that always go on about how video games are evil and possibly the work of the devil? I imagine that Thumper looks to me like what all video games look like to them. And if they saw Thumper, they'd probably just assume that Satan's been set free. God is dead, and when hell is full, the demons have nowhere to go but up. Thumper at first glance seems like a pretty bog-standard rhythm game, but this game would have been just fine with some sort of electro, dubstep, house, beat soundtrack. I don't know my EDM genres at all, okay? The point is that Thumper chose to go against the grain. Instead of a more bright neon look, it went for a more fluid, eldritch, tentacly aesthetic. I think you're a beetle, I guess? But more importantly, instead of this rhythm game using more traditional rhythm game type music, it elected to use the pounding drums of some sort of demonic hell march. And once you play it, you'll think that you're like the Master from Doctor Who or something because you'll never stop hearing the drums. But seriously, if you like rhythm games at all, or just like hearing the sounds of timpani and other drums getting the shit kicked out of them, you owe it to yourself to give Thumper a shot. The Lose Yourself by Eminem Award. The description for this award basically boils down to games that give you a physical reaction, generally related to nervousness. So I'm inclined to look towards games that give me some of that itchy trigger finger, whether it's through the most complex combination of simple inputs like in Bit Trip Runner or One Finger Death Punch, or the constant frustration I always feel when missing a vital save in Rocket League. Fuck! But I'm gonna go in a bit of a different direction for the award and give it to the game that has spawned maybe the most screaming interrupted by brief periods of intense concentration. I'm talking, of course, about Overcooked. Trust me on this, get a couple of buddies together, kick up this game, and see how long it takes before you're all screaming at each other. Whether it's yelling at someone to get the hell out of your way, or because you're just stressed out, and I mean, you gotta take it out on somebody. I've never been a cook, but I was employed as a dishwasher once for like 4 months, so I feel pretty comfortable saying I'm basically an expert at this game, and all of the shouting that comes with it. One of the best co-op experiences out there, and also pure insanity. Overcooked is bound to get you panicking at a moment's notice. The No Apologies Award. This is basically the "F you, I like this game" award. Yes, it may have flaws, but that's not a deal breaker. Whether it's for the novel concept of first-person parkour like the original Mirror's Edge, the unabashed goofiness of Saints Row 4, or Honey Pop, which despite its X-rated anime coat of paint hides some of the best mechanics for a match 3 game out there. But of all of these games, there's only one that I've somehow managed to 100% complete despite its flaws. And that game is Ollie Ollie 2, Welcome to Ollywood.
What?
I'm a sucker for extreme sports games. Always have been, always will be. But skating games have kinda taken a dip in popularity since the Tony Hawk series fizzled out. And while Skate 4 seems to be dead for the time being and the kickstarted game Session has a long way to go, the guys at Roll 7 are here to pick up the slack with their Ollie Ollie series. Don't let the simplistic retro-looking graphics fool you. Ollie Ollie 2 is a fast-paced, side-scrolling skater's haven with an arcadey career mode, tons of spot challenges, a daily combo test, and precise analog controls for all of your flippy shit. Is it flawless? Not quite. The controls can be a little too finicky at times, which is a problem when you've got to be frame precise at times, but this is a game about mastery, and nailing a combo down an entire line is one of the most satisfying things you can do in a skating game. If you like the Skate series or missed the Tony Hawk series and want something familiar but different, you need to play Ollie Ollie 2. The Cry Havoc and Let Slip the Dogs of War Award. With an award whose name only sounds right coming from the booming voice of Brian Blessed.
Cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war!
This is the award that just makes you feel like some sort of big, burly, badass banjo. I ran out of words that start with B. Bloody. Whether it's through the Hollywood lens of Call of Duty 4, the retro neon vomit of Hotline Miami wherein you paint the floors red with the blood of your enemies, or the classic strategy of where exactly to toss that holy hand grenade in Worms Armageddon. But of course, no game will ever make you feel like more of an absolute badass than 2016's Doom. Like 2 minutes into this game and you'll be punching demons in the mouth while gallivanting through the hellish landscapes of literal hell, though weirdly still not as hellish as Thumper. Call it juvenile, say it isn't deep, Doom doesn't give a shit. It was too busy tearing demons' skulls in half to hear you. It's the gory, visceral, arcadey return to form that we all needed, because nothing quite beats the feeling of tearing a demon's heart out and then showing it to its face, before you punch their face so far into the ground that it leaves a crater. The Suspension of Disbelief Award. This is the award for the game whose concept probably sounds the stupidest coming out of your mouth, but who cares because the game is great. This could range from the ridiculous heavy metal world building of Brutal Legend to the postmodern physics-based nightmares like Goat Simulator or I Am Bread, to the stretches of the most absurd concepts imaginable by way of Monty Python like the backdrop of Rock of Ages. But for this award, I'm gonna go with a game that combines a few of these ideas and go with... Wait, why is this game here? Sorry, I guess I screwed up somewhere, because this game's not weird at all. I mean, you literally just play as a suburban dad. You know, you go grocery shopping, you mow the lawn, it's all normal stuff. And it's not like there's anything weird about you or anything, so, I mean, I guess it would sound stupid to just be like, hey, I have a game where you play as a regular dad. Who'd want to play that? Yes, anyway, let's just move on. The Soul of Vitruvius Award. So I think this award is supposed to be for recognizing visual character design, but I'm gonna go ahead and go further than that. To me, this award is to recognize the games that create the most believable characters all around, regardless of whether or not their visual design is particularly spectacular or even existent. They can come from games like Firewatch that are built around mysterious and intriguing dialogue, or flawed portraits of humanity like The Beginner's Guide, one of the only games I've made a full video on this channel about in the past. Or they could come from characters we've guided and seen grow up over the years like Clementine in The Walking Dead. But for the award, I have to recognize the amazing work that went into not just the characters, but the entire world of Owlboy. Is this game perfect? Of course not, but the insane amount of detail that went into every aspect of the visual design of this game is nothing short of commendable. And I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't recognize this game for its excellent care in its character design, particularly with the protagonist, who despite being mute, gives off all of the impressions of that bumbling but good-natured archetype that we've all come to know and love. And despite the game having its flaws, it's still a great time, so if you like old-school side-scrolling platform adventures, play Owlboy. You won't regret it. The Defies Description Award. This is exactly what it says on the tin. This is for a game that I couldn't explain properly even if I wanted to. You'll just have to play them for yourself to get the idea. They're like Jazz Punk, which is a spy game, kind of. Or maybe it could go to a game like To the Moon, which is an 8-bit interactive story, I guess, but that really doesn't do the emotion justice at all. Or it could even go to a complex puzzler like Space Chem, where you do stuff. What was I supposed to do again? What is this? Do I eat it? But above all of these, no game properly escapes my grasp of understanding quite like Jonathan Blow's The Witness. It's a walking simulator, it's a puzzle game, it's a world stuck in time after a calamity, it's the intricacies of learning a language. Look, pretty much all I can say about this game is that it was clearly made for a certain type of person. So if any of what you're seeing looks interesting to you, or if you're the type who loves the satisfaction of solving intentionally obtuse puzzles and materials with zero hand-holding, and all of the life-shortening tears and frustration that comes with it, give The Witness a try. If for nothing else, then for the unique experience that it is. The Labor of Love Award. The Labor of Love Award I'm pretty sure is meant to be intended to games that are constantly being updated, but I'm gonna go ahead and include most games where you can just see that the devs just poured their heart and soul into every aspect of the game. More than usual. I mean, most games have their devs giving it their all behind the scenes. We're talking games with the creative character animations of Skullgirls, the all-or-nothing gamble turned empire that was Five Nights at Freddy's. We're even talking reboots of classic franchises that were way better than they had any right to be, like DuckTales Remastered. But to pick a game that's by every stretch of the term a labor of love, well, you just can't pick anything other than Eric Baroni's Stardew Valley. This game clearly wears its Harvest Moon inspiration on its sleeve, but the game wears it so beautifully. I've not seen many other games that have provided the same feeling of serenity to so many people other than Stardew. And just with how much you're able to do in this game, from farming, to fishing, to marrying, to mining, to battling, to playing other video games, it's mind-boggling to realize that all of this came from one dude, and he's still updating it as the game gets ported to more systems. Just when you think you've done everything, a whole world of opportunity opens elsewhere in Stardew Valley, and dedication like that has to be recognized. The Keanu Reeves Award 2.0. This is the award for... Okay, look, I have no idea what this award is for. From what I can gather, it's for games that just blew your mind. Whether it was through the sheer uncanny beauty of Columbia and BioShock Infinite, or the technical marvel that is the environments in The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, or the sheer trippy brilliance of the simple gameplay mechanics in Portal. But the game that made me think this the most, well, how could I give it to anything other than Cuphead? One of the few games that I waited for patiently for something like 4 years and still had all of my expectations met. The care taken to every enemy, every animation, every non-static part of every background. Hell, you know what? Even the static backgrounds. Literally everything in this game was lovingly and painstakingly handcrafted, and it paid off big time. Really, this could just as easily qualify for the Labor of Love Award, but it gets this one for the sheer reason that Cuphead looks like no other game out there, and I doubt no game will ever look quite like Cuphead. And while, yes, it is hard as balls, the execution is still more than worthy of a full playthrough. The Even Better Than I Expected Award. This award is weird. I mean, every single game I've mentioned in this video is excellent, so how do I pick one that most surpassed my expectations? Do I pick a game like Cuphead? A game that I expected to be great and had those thoughts validated? Maybe, but was it better than I expected? Well, not really, because I already expected it to be great. Maybe if I picked a game that I had really low hopes for that turned out to be decent. Only, I don't play a whole lot of games that I have particularly low hopes for. I mean, I guess you could include Honey Pop on that list, since you just expect it to be trash and then it turns out to be pretty good. But for this one, I've elected to pick a game that I had middle-of-the-road 50-50 expectations for that I ended up basically giving a perfect 10. And after combing through my Steam library, I finally landed on Mark of the Ninja. The best stealth game I've ever played, period. There's really nothing else I can say about it. Sure, I don't really remember the story beats, but that's not important. The important part is that literally every single mechanic in this game complements the theme of being a ninja. It's a sublime distillation of stealth mechanics on a 2D plane, and there's really not much else I can say. I have no criticisms. If this isn't a perfect stealth game, I'd love to see someone try to dethrone it. Alright, so the last award allows you to write in your own category, which I did. And I'm gonna let you know up front that my pick for my made-up award is Doki Doki Literature Club. And the award I've given this game kind of ruins the whole thing, so if at this point you've still never played it but would like to, I suggest doing that first because there are some huge spoilers ahead. It's totally free and you can get through it in no more than a couple of hours. Just be prepared for some really heavy stuff. Okay, here come spoilers, 3, 2, 1. With that warning out of the way, I've nominated this game for the 4 Fourth Wall Doesn't Exist award, an award that I made up to recognize those games that use the unique qualities of the medium within the confines of its own limitations in order to directly interact with the player. This could be applied to a bunch of different games, from games whose primary mechanics bleed outwards from traditional gameplay like Pony Island or Stories Untold, to internet-spanning alternate reality games like The Black Watchman. But Doki Doki Literature Club cinches it for me for a couple of different reasons. Firstly, the misdirect, but I can't even really call it that since the game lets you know that it's gonna be getting pretty heavy, but without specifying it so that you're always on edge for that tonal shift. But even if you know it's coming, it still succeeds at being completely unsettling. Obviously, lots of visual novels are unsettling, but the rather drawn-out first half of this game almost leads you into this false sense of security, even when you know it's coming. The second, and more important reason I picked this game is because there are other games I could mention that use some sort of in-game interface that allows you to mess with the game in return. In Doki Doki, however, that interface is your PC itself. It revels in you screwing with the files in your own system just to see what will happen. And I don't think I've seen many other Steam games where manipulating the game files on your literal actual computer could be considered a core gameplay mechanic. Hell, Monica is a master at f***ing with the player, reading their name from their Windows user files, and even calling you out for not reading the game description on Steam. I don't think I've ever played a game before that made me get up and shout at a character as if they were real and I was being personally attacked. But when Monica started talking to me and used my real name, my reaction was something like, what, no, f*** you. You, Monica. Almost for this reaction alone, I have to recognize Doki Doki Literature Club as the game that takes the most advantage of the fact that it's a game. Also, Sayori is best girl, and if you think otherwise, you're just Monica. Just Monica. Just Monica. Just Monica. Just Monica. Just Monica. Okay, well that turned out way longer than I was expecting. Anyway, I hope you had fun watching this and at least got a few decent game recommendations, whether it was something older that flew under your radar or something newer that you were maybe thinking about playing already. And hey, if you like this, maybe I'll try to do stuff like this a bit more often. Anyway, let me know what your Steam Award picks are this year. Are there any of my picks that you agree with? Let me know in the comments. Have a great holiday season and start to 2018. And if you're subscribed to any of the channels where I spend most of my time, you'll probably still see me around this month, just not on this channel, but I'll definitely have some new stuff at some point in the new year though. But anyway, yeah, thanks for sticking around.